Okay, we are now outside the headquarters of Audio Research Corporation, or ARC as it's known. And this is ARC where they bring in all the animals 2 by 2.
Exactly.
And they have hours posted. Now that's really unusual. The hours are posted. Why would you post hours of a factory?
Good question.
Who comes here to go shopping? Can I shop here? There's no shopping here at Audio Research, but they have hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., closed on Saturdays. Look. Early stuff. They're certainly not wanting for space. Seeing some older products here. Wow, look at this. Early days. SP15. Man, this is when preamplifiers really had lots of stuff you could do. This is when the Audio Research gear looked like it was medical equipment. I like that look, actually. I think it's really cool, but I don't think a lot of women would like this, kind of thing in their house. This is where they work people over when they don't pay their bills. First they go in here and they get talked to by the credit manager, and then they bring them out here into these booths, and there are instruments of torture in each booth, and then they pay up. That's awesome. Can you play with it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You have to know your tubes, otherwise you don't know who's who. So now we are here at Audio Research, where they are building electronics. Now you don't hear a din. There's no din. There's no banging and clanking.
So the way the factory works is it's a relatively organic flow. So we start here with bins of parts, and they're set apart. You can see, for example, this is for a Ref 10 power supply. So these are all the parts that are needed to build a Ref 10.
It's like a giant kit. It's like a giant Heath kit.
It's like a big Heath kit. Yeah. And that's what each of these are. You'll see they each have labels on them.
The audio stuffing is here. So there's the breadcrumbs.
Right.
There's the eggs. Okay. And these circuit boards are manufactured
locally.
Yep. So you have a whole slew of subcontractors in the Minneapolis area that produce the chassis.
So an interesting
boards.
story. I'll give you the history. So Bill Johnson initially opened a store in the early 50s called Electronic Industries. And he sold, among other brands like Macintosh.
So you should
Scott,
introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry, Brandon Lauer, Director of Marketing for Audio Research.
Okay.
So Bill started Electronic Industries in the early 50s. And it was initially like a sales and service company, but he also was a tinkerer. He designed stuff, and he built enough of a reputation that by the late 60s, a local company called Peplo bought Electronic Industries, all of his designs, and Bill. So that was in 67, and he worked for them for 67 or 68, worked for them until 1970. I guess he decided he didn't want to work for anybody anymore.
Sure.
Bought back his designs and started Audio Research.
So he was selling these products locally. This wasn't nationally distributed hi-fi, because what brand would it be? A brand that anybody would have heard of?
Well, Electronic Industries was the brand at that time.
Really? So I've never. If I look in the hi-fi magazines, I don't see ads for. So it must have been more of a local kind of thing.
I think initially it was probably local, or certainly smaller.
Right.
I don't think until it became Audio Research did it really start to make a bigger push.
And that was in the early 70s.
1970. 1970.
Okay.
But interestingly, the company...
And that was in the era of Hirsch-Haupt domination.
Right, exactly.
For those of you who don't know what that means a magazine called Stereo Review. They would review everything was great. There were no bad products.
Yes.
Everything sounded great, and it was all measurement based. That was it. It's the only thing that counted. Listening didn't count.
I grew up with Stereo Review.
Yeah, me too.
But no, all of our, I said all of our circuit boards are made locally. So the company that had bought Audio Research, Peplo, is the company that still makes these for us.
Oh, that's great.
It's just a kind of a fun little anecdote to our stories. So anyway, so it starts here, and then the first thing that happens is we stuff the boards. All of our boards are hand stuffed.
That's unbelievable that the boards are hand stuffed. When you see the complexity of this equipment, to think, and they also make their own flowers. Very important, you know that.
This is Wendy's station. She's very colorful.
Oh my God, look at this.
It's a whole display. Hey, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
This is Mike. This is Michael.
Nice to meet you.
Michael, he's a reviewer.
Michael?
Yeah, Michael.
Okay.
Look at this, is beautiful.
So what she'll do is, you can see on the left there, is she has a sample board.
Right.
So this is essentially the board that she works off of. And then
Casey!
she takes all the
I gotta tell
parts
her.
and
Just taking it away. Don't take it away.
You want to take
I know you're
picture?
busy and you're working, and I'm interrupting the
I have
factory
a
work.
problem already.
oh, okay, you can go. Thank you.
There are no problems here.
But that was really interesting. She'll take these tools, and that's what she actually uses to bend the resistor legs.
I see.
So, and depending on where it's going to go, how much space, she puts it in the appropriate slot and then bends.
How long does it? Look at the doggies. How
Right.
long does it take to train someone to do this kind of work?
That's a good question. I'm not certain. I think the actual for board stuffing, the important thing is the attention to detail,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't say a lot of actual training time, as it becomes really more just say a mental state almost, right?
Yeah. How do you?
Focus, right?
Do you have an in-house psychologist or psychiatrist who no, seriously, who, like, when you're looking for a new employee, you have to
Right.
find people not only who can provide the requisite skills,
Right.
but who have the mindset to be concentrated on the task, and so that takes a certain kind of person.
No, for sure it does. I mean, and on a board, this isn't the most complicated board, but board stuffing can easily take an hour or two per board.
Yep.
It's something a machine punches out in 10 seconds. She'll spend a couple hours working on this board.
Right.
Some boards take even longer. So,
And you're paying attention to every solder joint and
Right. polarity. Everything.
Yeah.
But the only thing that she does is stuff. She's just a board stuffer.
So she doesn't solder them. That's somebody else. So she puts the components in. I
Nice
see.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You need a turtle to go with that palm tree right there.
What he's doing?
That kind of palm tree needs to have a turtle.
So boards get stuffed, and you look at our boards too, and you see like you have the double stacked resistors, and
Right.
And this board doesn't have anything on the back side, but a lot do. But here you can see all the contacts. So
Yeah. Now why can't you just get one resistor of the right value instead of putting one on top of the other?
because they don't make them.
How dare they?
Yeah. Those
How
are
long
such
have you been working here?
Almost 21.
21 years.
Almost.
Almost.
Yes.
Almost. Wow. Wow.
But-
Outstanding.
But yeah, she'll.
Have you ever listened to any of the products that you've built?
What's this?
Have you listened to any of these products?
Yes.
They sound good to you? You better say yes, otherwise 21's going to be as far as you go. You should bring these people in every once in a while so they can enjoy the music.
You're right. We should have.
I'm going to make sure it happens.
We're gonna have sound.
See, I got my degree in industrial and labor relations, so I understand all these things.
Yes.
I'll be a lot happier when I'm done.
Sound room is down the end of that corridor.
So this is all board soldering basically. So there's various stages of board soldering.
What kind of solder do you use? Is it silver solder? Or?
It is silver
Yeah.
solder. Yeah. It's of course non-lead because we can't use lead.
Right now it's all rose.
Our row house. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that create problems for the company when they first switched over?
Well,
Because
It did because we just don't use any off-the-shelf solder.
Right.
I mean, the solder that we were using, had been picked because of its sound. And when Rojas, mandated no
Yeah.
more lead in solder, then we had to go through a whole other process of listening and testing.
you know that the
solder.
people who think that solder can't possibly sound think you're crazy.
Of course.
But who cares what they
Yeah.
think?
Well, but the thing is, it's not like the solder makes or breaks the component, but it makes a difference, right?
Yeah,
And so it's an incremental difference. But as we go along, you'll see a lot of things that we do that are all incremental difference makers, but compounded together,
It adds up.
It really adds up,
To a- yeah.
And that's what we pay attention to a lot of different pieces and parts, and that's
Right.
what it's about.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a surface mount board, right?
Well, this is insane. You were telling me.
So like this chip, these chips are hand soldered.
Get out of here.
And if you want to know how to do it, just turn around.
That's insane. So when you finish a board, does your name go on it so that if there's a mistake, they can trace it back to you and spank you?
Yes.
There's really a way of knowing.
Bruises are gone away, so. Yes, I am accountable for what I do.
Have you ever made a serious mistake?
I've only been here 2.5 weeks. I hope not.
Okay, okay. I'll find someone who's
I'm
been
trying to make it a month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So they get into the heavy power, high-powered scope,
Oh, yeah.
and they've got these soldering
So for
irons.
someone who's soldering a chip,
Yeah.
now that's got to be a skill that you have.
Yeah.
Skill set.
Susan, how many people actually do this surface mount?
Well, there's me, Andrew, and Gary that
Okay.
I know up here. I mean, basically, mostly me.
Mostly you.
Wow. So you're like a valuable person to
I'm
have.
very back and forth.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to learn how to solder that?
Oh,
What
that
is
was,
these-
they
like these-
had a temporary in here for a while, and she didn't like it, so.
Oh. So it got stuck back on you, huh?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I like.
And how long have you been working here?
Oh, 8 years so far.
And did you ever think that you'd be soldering boards and making?
Oh, see, that's why I like it here. That's what I like to do.
Awesome. Well, that's good. You know, we have to like what we do.
And it's building from the bare basically. And it's about it. Sometimes it's fun just to, sometimes when you got to take something apart. All that equipment.
I once built a color TV from a kit.
A color TV.
Color TV.
With
And-
tubes in it, right?
That
All
would
t-
be cool, because once I built a distributor from
For a car?
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when I was about grasshopper.
Yeah, I built a color TV, all tubes, all point-to-point wiring, no circuit
Wow.
boards, and then it got stolen a week after I finished it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah. So basically, you have the board stuffing, and then you have the board soldering. And
Right.
the boards take anywhere from probably 1 to 5 hours to complete a single board, depending
Wow.
on how complicated it is. And then once it's done, we stuff it into one of these anti-static bags. I'm going to pull it out of, and and then there you have it. So this is a board out of the Ref 750, which is our big monoblock. And this is actually this power supply board is what this one is. So this one doesn't have a lot on the back, but a lot of our boards are double-sided.
Double-sided, yeah. How many
Two.
layers are on those boards?
These are just simple two-layer boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not fancy boards from that standpoint.
Right.
But the dual side concept is something that we use frequently because it shortens paths.
Yep.
So instead of having to create a whole new trace to go to another circuit, we just put it on the bottom.
And what quality of wire do you use to connect things up? Do you know any idea what that
I
is?
do, yeah, and there's.
I mean, because that counts too.
Of course it does. So again, this is the power supply board. So none of this is audio wire.
Right.
It changes. Now here is an audio board. So these are the audio cables, and these are actually custom, custom designed for us. They're actually labeled, but we're not going to talk about the label.
Right.
But and we also have another design, another wire design. It's a Litz design. You get those guys down to the blue and white ones.
Right.
That Audio Research actually used to make cable. Used to sell
Wow.
Audio Research branded cable, and the Litz wire was designed back at that time. So this other wire is really this is our secret sauce audio
Right.
cable. It's really good.
And then
So these are all the finished boards, and then these are sample boards. So when somebody's got to build, for example, a CD6, then they come and grab the sample board. And, Wendy, for example, she'll use that to stuff.
so all of these are sample boards.
All of these are sample boards. Yep.
And these two. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yep.
And when a product goes out of manufacture, you still save all of these for repair, so you can have
Correct.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see that back in the service department.
Okay.
They've got a whole collection of old boards. So while that's happening, we've got people that are working on the chassis, right? So we get the metal in, and it's obviously not populated with standoffs or
Right.
any boards or pieces.
Yep.
So we got people that put all that together, and then basically the two components get married in the middle. So there's a preamp that's getting built. It's actually the Ref 6 preamplifier. So what they'll do is they'll get the order in, and she'll grab a chassis, and then go over there to the board.
So you don't keep inventory per se.
We do keep some.
But
Yeah.
for the most part, if someone orders something, then you build to order.
We keep unfinished or incomplete chassis typically. So like, this doesn't have any metal work on it.
Right.
So we'll build it up, and finish it to this point, get it through all the testing, and then keep it unfinished. And then when order comes in, then we just put the panels on it. Because otherwise, it's usually a 3 to 5 day process.
Yeah.
To build something.
Wow.
And that's
it's like a
just-
whole week to build a piece. That's essentially.
Right. Well, again, just what we went through over there. You consider the whole board process.
Oh yeah.
At
It
least
doesn't surprise me at all.
that's a day, right?
Yeah.
And then, this is pretty quick, this assembly process here, but then it goes to the quality assurance guys, which we'll get to in a minute. And then after that it goes to the listening test and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's, there's a lot of steps.
So, does anything ever get built and certified as measuring fine, and then you go listen to it and it doesn't sound the way it's supposed to sound?
Yeah.
And then how do you trace back what the problem is?
So,
We just walked down this aisle.
let's go on this side. I'll answer that question in just a minute.
Yeah.
But no, that's a really good question.
So this is a monoblock amp.
That's the Ref 250, yeah, that's what we were listening
Yeah,
to
yeah.
last night.
Looks familiar. So this is the power transformer, and that's the output,
Output transformer.
And those are made by whom? You don't say. Certainly
Well,
you
we use
expect.
different companies. We have a couple different suppliers for transformers, but
And that's
they-
not off the shelf. That's something that's made
Oh no,
specifically for you.
these are very customized transformers. The windings in them are actually very complex. Transformer technology is really key to sound quality.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really important.
Even I know that.
And so, no, all of our transformer designs are our own, and they're made. They're not made in Minnesota, but they're made like we have one supplier in Wisconsin, another supplier in Illinois.
And this is your director of remote controls who sits here,
Right.
right? Hi there.
Hi.
So you putting this together? So you got a faceplate on it. Though.
We had the wrong standoffs on here, so we're trading them out.
See,
Don't put that video on.
I'm going to. You caught the mistake. That's what matters. That's all that matters.
So, eventually you get something that resembles a finished product, and it comes down here to the QA, quality assurance. And so what happens here is they do all the measurements, and they hook it up to the machines and make sure that
If I put my finger in there and touch something, will I die?
you won't die, but
Cool.
you'll probably get knocked down.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, so assuming everything measures properly, then it goes through a burn-in phase. So this will sit here for 2 days. It'll power cycle and just get burned in over time.
So when a person buys one of these, they're buying a used component. is what you're
Basically,
saying.
yes, it's
Well,
used, yeah.
that's just outrageous to me. For what this goes.
and it gets used even more after this.
And this is going to Europe, this piece, I assume.
Yeah, with that cord.
So it's 240 volts.
230, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll burn in here for 2 days, and then it'll go back to QA and they'll test it again. So they do beginning test and they do an end test. If
Right.
it measures properly, then it goes to warrant. So and this is an interesting part of our story too. Every single product that we build, Warren listens to.
And that's why it's warranted.
It's warranted.